I'm just wondering whether we're a selection panel or writing a doctoral thesis here, or producing a cultural artifact for people to look back on in years to come.
We're creating a video that a lot of people will have a lot to say about. Let's put it that way.
Oh.
And I can't guarantee it'll all be pleasant, but who cares? None of our stuff is anyway. Go on.
Yeah, clickbait. I think that's what we're after, isn't it? Clickbait.
So it's time we have another crack at this. Our dream team on ESPN Cricinfo. We pick a team this time that you've asked us to pick and try and come up with the best possible 11 after the collective wisdom of Cricinfo comes together. And after all our hard work and research, we essentially just get slammed on social media. But that doesn't deter us. We're going to go again, and just to weigh out the abuse, we're just going to keep changing the selectors. We've got Karthik Krishnaswamy, Alan Gardner, and Andrew McGlashan that join us on this one. KK joins us from Bangalore. Of course, he's written in detail about all things Indian cricket and otherwise on the side for years. Alan Gardner's representing the United Kingdom, because there are few faces that can represent the United Kingdom in all glory these days. So he's there. Andrew McGlashan has the unique experience of serving in Sydney but being English. So he's sort of found a way to become an expert in Australia and England. As we discussed on the mail chain before this ODI 11 that we're going to pick, essentially this should be a quick chat. 11 of the English team that played the World Cup final a year back should be good enough.
Yeah, the reigning World Cup champions. I mean, they're unbeatable, aren't they? Not necessarily won the game, but they're unbeatable.
Yeah. This is the team for today. The theme for today is going to be the current ODI 11, the best current ODI 11. Now, we are going to pick a 12-member team, which the parameters are simply that this team should be good enough to beat any opposition anywhere in this planet or any other planet. So the one thing that we do want to discuss up front is the status of Shakib Al Hasan, and whether we should include Shakib, which makes, I think, if I can speak on behalf of you, which would make our life a little easier in terms of balance of the team if we do involve Shakib. But of course, serving a one-year suspension, which is due to end in October, I think we can keep it to our discretion. So, KK, should we include Shakib, and should we consider him eligible for the purpose of this selection?
It's a sort of like fantasy exercise anyway. So why, have real life intrude into it just for this?
In strictly current ODI 11, he's not currently available. But I love Shakib, so yeah, I'm happy with that. If that's the majority of the panel view.
Yeah, I'm happy for him to be eligible. He obviously played at the World Cup, which will come a lot into our discussions. And let's pretend the first match of this series against the aliens from Mars is taking place on the 1st of October or whenever he becomes eligible to play again. Very
well. So let's get straight into our team then. As we throw open the discussion for openers, it's going to start, of course, with Rohit Sharma. Other content, Johnny Bairstow and Jason Roy both make a very strong case themselves, just as each other's partners, even to make a case. David Warner, Aaron Finch, and we also have some other fairly solid performers over the last year or so in Shai Hope. Shikhar Dhawan and Quinton de Kock's records have been pretty steady as well, and they probably get the advantages left-handers. So those are all the names. I don't think I've missed out anyone in this discussion. Who'd like to go first? Are we going to make a strong case for just Bairstow and Roy and ignore Rohit Sharma? Alan, you can take the first one.
Well, I mean, they're pretty phenomenal, aren't they? I don't think any ODI openers in the history of the game have scored as many runs at as high a strike rate as those two, both scoring well over a run a ball. I think they're a very good opening partnership, but it's hard to look beyond the numbers and the claim of Rohit Sharma. I think it is fair to say.
Does Rohit Sharma then automatically walk into all our teams? KK?
Yeah, he does. And one thing I wanted to mention with regards to Roy and Bairstow, who've been like phenomenal. Like you look at the numbers, and it's a very hard case to make to ignore both of them. But I'd only say that England, they play ODI cricket in a very specific way, which isn't possibly like a method that isn't available to a lot of other teams, because they bat all the way to 10 and sometimes 11. Given that, I would pick Rohit Sharma as one of my two openers and one of Roy or Bairstow, and it's hard to choose between the two of them.
All right, so that is the argument then. If we are going to now pick Rohit, since Alan and KK have said that I have Rohit as well, I'm assuming, Nasha, not dropped Rohit. You're a kind man. So Rohit Sharma, then who partners him? And it's now a call to decide between Bairstow and Roy, or are we going to throw in the left-handedness of David Warner in spite of the 1-year absence that he had from cricket, or anybody else?
In the way that Rohit plays, he can start off reasonably slowly and build. Ironically, that's kind of what Warner's done a little bit in the last sort of 12 months since he's come back. Now, maybe that was condition-based a bit at the World Cup. The new ball did nibble a bit, but quite often he wasn't flying in the first 5 or 6 overs, but he would catch up impressively. I think he wants someone who's completely the opposite to the other opener in terms of style in this case. And you've got Rohit, whose numbers are incredible. He converts almost like nobody has done in the history of ODI cricket, really. And with Roy, you've got someone who can just go from that first or second over with just such clean striking. And the reason I put Roy ahead of Bairstow, very hard call, was I just thought Roy took his game to a new level in the last 12 months. I mean, the impact he had on the World Cup was phenomenal. You saw how desperate England were to get him back from that hamstring injury, and then he came back and had a huge impact. For me, I think pushing it, I'd go Roy alongside Rohit for my opening pair.
All right, just to throw in the numbers as well, it's so hard to pick between Bairstow and Jason Roy, but given I consider myself a bit of a cricket elitist, I have picked their numbers in Australia, in England, and in India, because the rest of the countries don't matter. For the sake of this selection, at least. Jason Roy averages 50 in Australia, small sample size, albeit, as against Bairstow's 31. In England, both of them have phenomenal numbers, although Bairstow's just been to another level. 58 is Johnny Bairstow's average in 45 innings, as against Jason Roy averaging 47 in 48 innings, which is not bad. But also in just 3 games, in 3 innings, Jason Roy also averages 47 in India.
Roy seems, I think, the slightly more comfortable with his game, slightly more comfortable in his role. He's been played all around the world in that role more than Bairstow has. And just looking at some of those numbers, I mean, we talk about different stages of the game. Obviously, Rohit's a bit of a slower starter. Roy and Bairstow are very aggressive. But Roy, particularly if he stays in, looking at the middle overs scoring, I think in that 10 to sort of 40 over period, no one scores quicker than Jason Roy if he's still going, and it sort of was like a run and over quicker than Bairstow in that period. And as Nasha noted, Rohit can hit that accelerator, and you know we can go very, very big, super size.
I'll give you 2 more reasons which make very little sense for Jason Roy. One, that there could be very little South African representation in this team, so it's nice that we picked Jason Roy. And second, if you need someone to put in a gun throw in a pressure situation in Super Over for World Cup final or a main game, you know that Jason Roy has the experience that nobody else does. But anyway, so Jason Roy and Rohit Sharma have locked in as our openers. That's great. Let's move on to what should be a very interesting conversation now, whether we can afford more than one accumulator or one batsman around whom the innings is built in this team. Is there just room for one in an ideal ODI team? And would that be a toss-up then between Kohli and Williamson and Joe Root? Or can we actually afford more than one? Can we afford playing Kohli and Williamson in the same 11? KK, you can go first on this.
I wouldn't pick, I mean, I'm a huge Williamson fan, but I wouldn't pick him in this team because I was looking through his record and his strike rate isn't too flash in the last couple of years. Like, it's in the 70s, the high 70s or whatever. And I don't know. I think you need to be doing better than that to be in the World 11. I know he plays a particular role for New Zealand in that New Zealand batting order. But even so, I look at like Ross Taylor going at 88 in the same period. And he's clearly been the better ODI batsman between the two in recent times. Like, he's been a phenomenal ODI batsman in recent times. So if I were to pick one of them, it would be Taylor, and Kohli has to be there. I don't think we need to discuss that at all.
We can just say Kohli has to be there. I think those words are pretty strong in spite of any argument that you might want to pose against Kohli.
Hang on. Let's no, I'm only joking. I can't. After what you guys went through with the test, after what happened with the Test 11, there's no way I can suggest we leave out Virat Kohli, is there?
The T20 11, yes. I made a very strong case for Virat Kohli in the T20 11, and the collective wisdom of Jared and Gaurav Sundararaman and Matt Roller was hard to comprehend. I didn't sleep since that night. But anyway, yes, I think Alan and Asha, let's just end the Kohli thing. Kohli's good.
Yeah, he's in my line.
If I'm pushed. I mean, he only averages 60 something, and
now,
scores
about okay.
Go on then.
I think we can factor in how good Virat is at everything he does. Obviously, I'll qualify it by saying that. But in terms of accelerating at the back end of a one-day innings, so yes, while he is an accumulator, he isn't quite in the same, shall we say, I don't want to call Williamson one pace, but he's a more dynamic batsman than Kane. So I don't think if we do pick Kohli and Williamson, we're picking two guys that are identical in terms of how they play one-day cricket. And both of their strengths, I think, is playing a situation. So like KK said, part of Williamson's numbers are because of situations he can play for New Zealand, where he plays. I've got 3 or 4 or 5 names for these sort of like middle order spots from 3 to 5. Another one who's not been mentioned yet, who I had sort of inked it around number 4 is Babar Azam. I mean, I think Babar Azam's strike rate, I think overall is higher than Williamson's. Push come to shove, I think coolness under pressure, calmness, like you mentioned, a captain material. I would probably go just for Williamson.
As all right-thinking people do, I love Kane Williamson. I love the beard. I love the demeanour. I love the accent. World Cup man of the series. But I mean, actually, I would have Joe Root above him, I think, in my ODI team. And we haven't mentioned him as an option. But I mean, when this debate was had for the Test team a couple of weeks ago, I don't think Root got a look in, and that's probably fair. But Root is arguably England's best ODI batsman of all time, and that's, you can cut these things various ways. But in terms of his average, 100 scored.
I mean, sorry, Alan, I say this with the utmost respect, but it doesn't take much to be the greatest England ODI batsman of all time, right? So if you've done well in the last couple of years, there are probably 4 guys in this team that would stake claim to that title. Greatest English ODI batsman. Again, sorry.
He's just knocking Neil Fairbrother off for the title.
Okay, KK, I'm going to come back to you. So Alan's thrown in Joe Root as an option. He says it's a stronger option than Williamson. You had Taylor ahead of Williamson. Now let's discuss the rest of the middle order together as a group. So there is Babar Azam. Obviously, if we are going to include Shakib, which we've decided he's eligible at least for this selection, there's Shakib as well. I do think in a little while from now, we'll all agree that Butler and Stokes should go into this team. If I'm wrong, you may just raise your hand right now. Is anybody raising their hand to say no Butler, no Stokes? Great. So that means that we know that we've got Butler and Stokes coming up. So that helps us decide what exactly would be the best middle order. KK, let's go back to you then. Babar Azam, Williamson, Ross Taylor, Shakib Al Hasan, Joe Root.
If I was picking one of them, it would be Taylor. I think we make too big a deal of World Cups. And I'll come back to this point a little later as well.
Hey, it's taken us a long time to win one, so don't you take it away from us.
In that group, I'd pick him. But I don't know if there's room for him in my team either, like as good as he's been. Because I want Nicholas Pooran in my middle order because he's probably been like one of the top one-day middle order batsmen in the last couple of years. And even at the World Cup, he was, hugely impressive. So I'd want him in my team ahead of even Taylor, I'd say.
We've already got Rohit, Roy and Kohli. We will just discuss why we've picked Stokes and Butler, but they will walk in. And I have assumed that the last 5 spots, that's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, will be bowlers, which means that there are 2 spots that we need to seal 2 outright batsmen for, whether that is, and that's between all the names that we've just mentioned. So we've thrown in the case for Williamson, Alan's thrown in the case for Joe Root. You have put, I think we'll have to now respectfully keep Ross Taylor aside, given the only one who was batting for him was you, KK, and even you have now left him out of your 11.
Yeah.
So now it's about Quick has thrown in a very different option of Nicholas Pooran.
I'd be hard pressed to go for Pooran ahead of Babar Azam, personally.
Yeah,
now,
sure.
that may be skewed because of what I've seen in the last 12, 18 months, but I just feel he's shown himself to be more of an all-round, complete batsman at the moment than perhaps Pora has.
There are enough options that will do the job Nicholas Pooran would do, who've had a stronger body of work. And that's with due respect, Nicholas Pooran, who's got, 23 ODI innings to his name. He's just played once against Australia, once against Bangladesh, twice against England. Essentially, it's one World Cup, and he's had that full series against India where he was phenomenal. But again, the body of work just doesn't quite add up. And I also think Josh Butler will do the same sort of role that you'd want Nicholas Pooran in the team for, and just in terms of the kind of batsman that I think KK is talking about, just on why you would want a batsman like Nicholas Pooran. And I would come back to my two picks for this, which would be Shakib and Williamson. Shakib, just hard to ignore, and the balance that he gives you in this team, and Shakib at his best. I know Shakib at his best is a Shakib batting at 3 or at 4, and in this team he would have to bat lower. But I would still pip him ahead of a Babar Azam for the left-hand factor, for the all-round factor. As far as Babar Azam goes, it's hard to fit in both, to fit in Kohli, Williamson, and Babar Azam. And I think Babar Azam, it's that toss-up. Nash has gone for Babar ahead of Williamson. I think I've gone for Williamson ahead of Babar, and you've just gone for Joe Root. So I'm going to go back to you now, Alan. Pooran doesn't come close to my calculations as good as he is. So I'll have you give a word on that, and then your two picks for those, what seem like those two batting slots.
I wanted Root in there, I think, on balance, but I'm leaning towards Babar because I always forget Babar, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. And then I remember Babar, and I think, what the hell am I doing? Why am I not including him? Shakib, I want a second spinner, and Shakib could be that pick. So maybe Ronak has to convince us that Shakib Al Hassan, despite his ban, is the man for us here.
So for me, it's like a philosophical issue. What kind of team are we looking to pick here? Are we looking to pick one that reflects where ODI cricket is going right now and what it's becoming? And I think, like, given the fact that we're picking a World 11 and we aren't like lacking for options, I was thinking we go with a batting lineup with a lot of depth and get as many guys who can like score really quickly in there and push the boundaries of what kind of totals a team can put up. And given that, I wouldn't have like a Babar Azam or especially a Shakib Al Hasan, whom I don't think has the gears for it, though yeah, his left arm spin would be very useful to have. I think between the options we've talked about, Williamson I think has those gears if he wants to play like that. So if you need my vote on like between these three guys, I'd go with Williamson.
So what we can do is we could pause this for a little while and come back, since I think this would be the biggest spot for contention. Let's get through with the rest of the team. So we will come back to these two spots. We've made strong cases for Williamson. Babar Azam seems to have two votes now from Nasher and Allen, and we've got the choice from KK, which is Nicholas Pooran as of now. So let's move on and let's come back to this. Butler and Stokes. Let's discuss them together. No arguments there. Just fit the quintessential middle order batsman that you want in an ODI, any situation, any condition. Everybody happy with that? Let me start with you, Alan.
Josh Butler, probably the most destructive, or one of the most destructive batsmen in the white ball game. He's your keeper, that covers that slot. Weirdly, I was looking at some of the numbers for the last couple of years. Mushfiqur Rahim has a very good record and could stake a claim there, but I think we're all going to pick Josh Butler. And Ben Stokes, your match winner, blockbuster, all-rounder, tattooed hero, Botham-esque idol. I'll pass it on to Nasher there.
In terms of a dynamic pairing of one-day cricketers, they are both all-rounders, of course, of different types. They are leaders as well, and they formed. I think England call it the engine room, don't they? Of their kind of their middle order. There, they can take us. They can more than double that score after 30 if that's where they come in. They're both available to float as well. I know we've been a bit concerned maybe about whether our top order is going to be dynamic enough of the names we're talking about. Well, with Josh Butler, if England are 200 for 2 after 28 overs, it's Josh Butler who walks in next. Or if they're 200 for 1, it's Josh Butler that walks in next. So I think we know we have that insurance policy with Butler as well in that middle order. So yeah, for me, those two are nailed on.
Let's go to the number 7 role. Do we have room for more all-rounders? Do we have a case for a Hardik Pandya or a Jimmy Neesham or anybody else that is the number 7 for you?
On pure like talent alone and the way his bowling has come on as well, I'd go with Hardik Pandya. And like he's like on potential, he's the best number 7 in ODI cricket. On potential, he's not always translated that into his performance, and I'll give you that. I'd say Colin de Grandhomme. I mean, ahead of Jimmy Neesham, he'd probably get into my team at 7.
I didn't have a quintessential 7 or an all-rounder like de Grandhomme or Hardik Pandya. I felt that when you've got Stokes, Butler and Shakib in my team, there is versatility enough for that role to be taken. And quite frankly, either Hardik Pandya or Colin de Grandhomme, none of them really make the cut above the players that I've already mentioned. So, Alan, over to you now. Do you have someone in that bracket, the Pandya, de Grandhomme, Maxwell, Neesham category, or is that something that you haven't considered either?
7 was the hardest position for me to pick. Probably on pure maverick brilliance, I would factor in Maxwell. I know we can pick we can pick 12, can't we? So maybe there are options here in that you kind of have a spinning all-rounder option and the Hardik Pandya seam bowling all-rounder option. I've also got Sir Jadoo written down and Jimmy Neesham.
This is where I sort of put Shakib into my team as sort of a luxury option, as sort of like he's almost the best spin option, and he's your safety valve of a bat. If your top order's 50 for 4, having tried to go hell for leather, you've got effectively a specialist batsman still to come. You can, if it's moving around a bit and you want a guy with maybe a decent technique to come in or whatever, and like you say, we're picking a 12 squad as well. The other name I'd put in, and this is if you wanted the bowler heavy option at 7, is Chris Woakes, whose batting I think is significantly underrated in international cricket, and who's come on as a solid white ball bowler in the last couple of years so much now. So basically the options I had was Woakes is your bowling number 7 and Shakib is your batting first number 7.
Let's go to the bowlers, because I think there'll be slightly less debate here. It looks like the road is clearer. The seamers first up: Mitchell Starc, Jofra Archer, Trent Bolt, Jasprit Bumrah, all part of the serious contenders. Shaheen Afridi as well, in terms of, even though the body of work isn't as much as the other 4 that I have mentioned, although Jofra Archer's body of work is very limited, and this is where we will discuss whether Archer makes a case to be in this team purely on the basis of one tournament. Nasha, who's the walk-in for you? Who's there no argument about? Starc and Bolt, Starc and Archer, Starc and Bumrah, or all of them?
Archer, Starc and Bumrah were the 3 that got my nod. If we're picking, and I'm leaving one spot for a specialist spinner.
I think if we're picking 12, there may be still room for one more, and therefore that'll be a call to take. Are we going to pick 2 spinners, or are we going to pick 4 seamers? So Nasha says Starc, Archer, and Bumrah. I've gone for the same 3 and thrown in Trent Bolt as well. Any more that you'd agree with all of those, or some of those were your takes on the seamers, Alan?
Yeah, I think the ones that have to be in there are Bumrah and probably Starc.
For me, 8, 9, 10, 11, I look at it as 8, who I want like some batting ability from. And so my 8 would be, depending on conditions, between Jadeja and Woakes. 9, 10, 11, Starc has to be there. Bumrah has to be there. I mean, Starc is like the most, you're losing a match. Like you're defending 270 and the other team needs 30 runs to win with 5 wickets in hand. And you need somebody who can just suddenly get you 3 wickets out of nowhere. He's your man. The other one, I'd pick a spinner. I'd pick Kuldeep Yadav, who even at the World Cup I thought bowled pretty well without having the numbers to show for it. And he's a top class ODI bowler. And he frightens teams in the middle overs, and he gets wickets there, which is really an important thing. If you're not picking Nicholas Pooran, why would you pick Archer with even fewer ODIs under his belt?
That's a very, very good point that KK has made. On the Kuldeep point, though, if I am to put my bid as well, then I think he's been pretty unlucky in terms of the way he's been handled by the Indian team. He's been a damn good bowler, and the fact India chose to go without him after that game against England. He still ends 2019 as the best spinner in terms of purely on numbers. far ahead of Chahal, far ahead of Adil Rashid or Adam Zampa or any other spinner. Kuldeep is my one spinner. I've already mentioned I have room for Stark, Archer, Bolt and Bumrah. KK puts an interesting one that you have to pick someone like Vokes or Jadeja, Alan, for your number 8 kind of position. You need someone who can bat. Now, I've gotten carried away perhaps and picked just the best bowlers. And it doesn't matter that may be that, Mitchell Stark has to bat at 8, which I would think is okay. So do you need to pick a specialist number 8, a guy who can bat a bit as well? So that's where KK comes from, picking Vokes or Jadeja.
If we've got a top order of, Rohit, Kohli, Babar, Stokes, Butler, then I think we can afford to focus on the best bowlers. Maybe number 8 needs to know which end of the bat to hold a bit more than the others.
Right. Perhaps we should also extend this chat to what KK has nicely laid the trap for us when we said no to Nicholas Pooran, and now we're all so keen to include Jofra Archer. Why does Jofra Archer make this team in spite of just a small sample size of work? That work was in the World Cup and, at the highest stage. Now, Nasha, would you like to go first, and then I'll take Alan?
Because of that, because he shone in his first global tournament when the pressure could not have been any greater, really, with also a lot of outside kind of pressures on him because he was new to the team. I'm not saying it's a perfect reason for selection. I think it's also positional as well, what we're looking to pick that time. We're not, yes, you can compare the arguments for Pooran and Archer, but they are competing for different spots in this team. And for me, Pooran wasn't, for other reasons as well, wasn't going to compete for a batting slot. Archer, for me, is right in there for a bowling slot.
We're not picking that. It's not Pooran versus Archer, right? Are we? It seems that where we've somehow got ourselves. But I think we're all keen on Jofra Archer. And sorry, KK, Nicholas Pooran's losing this debate, I think.
But Kuldeep Yadav as the spinners everywhere is Nasham and Alan. Are you happy with that?
I'd gone with Kuldeep of angle as well, the left arm wrist spinner. That's still a kind of
a novelty, sure.
Kind of variety, yeah. He's pretty far ahead in that role for me.
Okay, so Nasha, I'm going to save some time because we've already gone Kuldeep Yadav, the three of us, so it doesn't matter what you say.
That's fine.
And by that logic,
that's
we've also gone Jofra Archer, the three of us, KK, so it doesn't matter what you say. But if there is anything else left for you to say on this, we have locked in Stark, we have locked in Bumrah, and now Jofra Archer as well as Kuldeep Yadav. So that's 4 spots. Is there room for Trent Bolt, or are we going to go the Pat Cummins stroke Chris Vokes stroke Jadeja route for someone who can bat a bit at 8 and of course be a top bowling option? KK?
I definitely want a number 8. I'm really tempted to go for Vokes, also because Mitchell Stark isn't at his best with the new ball, probably. Mm-hmm. Bumrah is good at both ends of the innings. I'd want a new ball bowler, and Vokes with the new ball is a really, really good bowler.
Sure.
So that's one thing in his favor. I'd be happy with Vokes or Jadeja for that position. The number 8 doesn't have to bat at all. But the point is, having somebody like a Vokes there would allow your top order to bat differently from how they'd bat if you had somebody without that batting ability at 8. Yeah,
point well taken. So Vokes v Bolt would be the conundrum, and KK has mentioned it would be Vokes or Jadeja depending on conditions. But we do have to pick a 12 here. So Alan, which way are we leaning? Are we looking at Chris Vokes for the reasons that KK has made?
Vokes actually hadn't really crept into my larger pool. Mainly, I suppose, because he's nice Chris Vokes, and he flies under the radar. You think he's a lovely bloke. Is he among the best 10 players? Well, maybe he is actually.
If we don't get Shakib in, then I'd like Jadeja in there as kind of another spin bowling all-rounder type of figure. Brings a lot of dynamism, can play a lot of different roles. May even be a more natural fit for that slot in the lower middle order than Shakib, who I was trying to shoehorn in because I wanted him in the team for his bowling. So I mean, I could be quite easily persuaded to find a place for Jadeja.
And this is where now we get to the point where we've made our case for every player that we've mentioned pretty much. We've been influenced and swayed, and we've shown ourselves to be fickle and gullible by each other's thoughts, except KK, who is absolutely sure of what he wants in this team. To remind everyone, and now we will finally just go down to a vote, right? We've given our reasons. We will simply go down to a vote. Rohit Sharma and Jason Roy are our openers. Virat Kohli is 3. We've then got Stokes and Butler locked in. There is room for one specialist batsman. That will be either Kane Williamson, Babar Azam, or Joe Root. We've then got Kuldeep Yadav as the frontline spinner locked in. Mitchell Starc, Jasprit Bumrah, and Jofra Archer. And that leaves us with another 2 spots. One where we pick either another specialist bowler in the form of Trent Bolt or someone who can bat a bit more, which is either Chris Wokes or Pat Cummins or Ravindra Jadeja. And lastly, that one all-rounder slot, which will either be Shakib Al Hasan, Colin de Grandin, or Hardik Pandya or Glenn Maxwell. I think the easiest one to pick is the batsman, the spot for the missing batsman. So Kane Williamson, Babar Azam, and Joe Root. KK, you at the time had pushed towards Williamson. Are you giving him the vote in those 3?
Between those 3, yeah. Williamson.
Okay. Alan, you had mentioned Root and Babar Azam if you had to pick one.
Nicholas
Or
Pora?
Williamson. or Kane Williamson is the option. Because you know,
come on, guys. I'm keen to open a beer soon. So, yeah.
Are we allowed to drink meeting early for me?
It might help actually, because it's not helpful doing this without one. Yeah. Alan.
I'm gonna switch horses and go for Babar.
Okay, Babar then. So we've got Williamson, KK, Babar, Alan. I've mentioned Williamson. Nasher, it comes down to you.
I mean, I know I talked up Babar very strongly. I mean, it's a 50-50 call completely, and I could be persuaded for the ease of was getting to the 12 to come down on the
you have that beer coming up, remember.
I do. It's chilling in the fridge at the moment. To come down on the side of Williamson, he's a phenomenal player. Maybe arguably technically slightly tighter at this time of his career than Babar Azam is. So I'm not gonna lose sleep over the fact we have Kane in that top 4 and not Babar. Just probably RIP my mentions now that I've caved in.
Yeah. KK and me had anyway said Williamson over Babar. Nasher seems to have swayed. So with the most honourable of mentions and all the abuse that we can foresee coming our way for not picking Babar Azam, who's just recently been made Pakistan's ODI captain, are we happy to then lock in Kane Williamson, gentlemen?
I just want to say I'm still Team Babar, and
fair enough. You can stick to that. Thank you, Nasher, for caving in to some degree. Not that you were forced to. You decided this of your own accord. So don't try and sell this as we pushed you to this.
You bribed him with a beer.
What Alan did.
You literally bribed him with a beer.
which is his own beer, which he has. I bribed him with something you already own. And now to come back to the number 7 spot. Do we have room for Shakib, which Nasher and me were a fan of? KK has made a strong case for Colin de Grandin. There's also Hardik Pandya and Glenn Maxwell in that list. So, Nasher, are we going to stick with Shakib, you and me?
I'd like to go for Shakib. I know it feels a little bit forced because it's out of kilter to where he's forged this successful run. But with Stokes in there as another seamer, plus the 3 frontliners you'd probably pick, just like another spin option there. So yeah. I'm going to go for Shakib for that role.
Such a strong record. Captaincy option as well. And notwithstanding his current ban, but yeah, I'm happy with Shakib as our squad option there.
All right, KK, you can put in your dissenting vote or your opinion. It looks like Shakib has been squeezed into this team. But yes, you can give your final word on that number 7 spot.
If you're picking a World 11, what sense does it make to squeeze someone into an unfamiliar position, and where we know he doesn't have the gears for it? If he doesn't have the gears for it, does he bat higher up the order? And then why do we need another batsman of that style when we have so many who can do that role already in the team? I just don't see a compelling enough case for Shakib. If world cricket didn't have so many options for that very role of number 7 who are built for that role, then you shoehorn someone in. But like when you have Maxwell and Hardik Pandya and de Grandin and Neesham, and it's a time when we actually have all-rounders who bat explosively, who give you something that Shakib simply doesn't give you. Why would you not pick one of them?
Yeah, fair enough. I think the batter at 7 is the strongest argument we made for the names that you did mention. I guess it depends on what you're focusing on, and we are focusing on what Shakib gives you with the ball in a team that would otherwise feature just the one spinner. I guess that's kind of the reasons for shoehorning him are different from the reasons for picking someone to bat 7. So yeah, you've heard it. Shakib gets the vote, and KK makes a very important asterisk that we will note. But that squeezes Shakib in at 7. We now come back to the bowling option that we went for. I'm happy to go with Chris Woakes for the reasons that you've mentioned. Better batter at 8. It meets Trent Bolt, doesn't make it. But if we have picked Shakib, then I don't see room for Jadeja. KK, your thoughts on that? Chris Woakes, happy with that at 8?
Yeah, so happy with him at 8.
A very polished choice, and I'll leave it to the coach where he puts him in the lineup.
Yeah, sure. Assuming coaches decide these things. Right, Nasha.
For this last spot, Woakes seems to me
very well.
Yeah,
very well. So Bolt and Jadeja and Hardik Pandya and Maxwell can all travel as specialist fielders, because that'll be one hell of a team of fielders as well if you just add them as in for their fielding in this team. But it looks like we've got our 12. If we are to pick a captain, even though it's not a big deal, Williamson or Kohli or Rohit Sharma. KK.
I pick Kohli because he's been captain for longer. His record is tremendous. As an old, India's record under him in all formats is brilliant. And if you have, I don't care who my captain is, but if I'm picking one, why not Kohli? Yeah.
All right, Alan, Williamson, Kohli.
Rohit Sharma for the lols, but Williamson if I have to make a serious pick.
Andrew.
Yeah, I'll go with Williamson.
Very well. So we finally, after much, and I mean much deliberation, have come down to our current 11. Not to say that we all agree on this, but then again, I doubt every selector in a selection panel agrees on every selection made. So to repeat our dream team, Rohit Sharma, Jason Roy, Virat Kohli, Kane Williamson, Ben Stokes, Jos Butler, Shakib Al Hasan, Chris Woakes, Kuldeep Yadav, Mitchell Starc, Jasprit Bumrah, Jofra Archer. So that's our 12. And Kane Williamson is captain.
Lovely. Time for a beer.
Yeah. Well, time for breakfast for you, Alan.
A breakfast beer.